Hello friends, this is Ashton. How are you doing today? So this is the first video and at the first day of 2022, I hope you all have a great new year. Alright, so in today's video, we introduce a new project which is also a web application, and at the end of this video, if you can follow every step, you should be able to build a basic structure of a multiple page web application like this. Okay, so we can have a menu or have a navigation bar you can toggle like this. So open or hide, and we have two routers or two pages. We have a home page, we have an about page, so you can navigate the pages like this way. And the last part is basically we have a function here to add a dark mode to your application, and you also can have a light mode, so you can toggle the dark and light mode like this. Okay, so I basically split this video part by part so you can follow that a little bit easier, so you can follow them step by step, and at the end of the video I assume you can build the same thing, exactly the same thing. Okay, and so some tools I'd like to introduce before we go to the step-by-step videos. So basically we have 5 steps in our videos in this video. Okay, and the first part is basically the basic structure of web application in Google Apps Script, and the second part is how to add the Vue library to our application, and the third one is basically to add a CSS library called vuetify.js to our application, and the fourth is a state management tool which is called Vuex, and we add this Vuex to our application. And the last one, and is very important one, I think, for multiple page applications in Vue, and which is called vue-router. Okay, we use this library to do the page navigation in our application. All right, so we can get started. Okay, so let's build the basic structure of this application. So let's first create a new Google Apps Script file. And give it a name. So this is live coding 011, and I think it's part A. All right, so as usual, if you want to build a web application, you need to have some backend code. So I'd like to rename this code to backend. Okay, so all our backend code, I put it here in this file. So first function I'd like to define here is toGet, and this function is going to return an HTML service, create a template from a file. The file name is going to be an index file. So let's set up a constant here called config. I'd like to define all my configurations here. So like for the name, so basically this is going to be the name of this application. So live coding 011 for the name here, and I'd like to put the, and for the index it's going to be index.html. so this is the file name for our index file. Okay, so config.index. I'm going to set evaluated and set a title for this application, which is config.name, which is basically our app name. Okay, and finally I'm going to set the XFrame options here, just in case you need to do some iframe. If you want to use this web application as an iframe, it's better you can set it up like this way. So HTML service, xframe options mode, and allow all. So in this case, you can get rid of that annoying Google service alert like that. Okay. And that's all you need to do at the backend, I think. And for our front end, you need to create an index.html file. So let's create it. So which is index dot. You don't need a dot because it's already a HTML file. So this is your index file. So let's put a div here. Give it a maybe h1. Hello app script. So this is our basic structure of application. So at our backend, you have a do get function. Okay, this is function to handle the get request from the front end, and you give it a file you want to render, which is this index.html file we defined here. Okay, so right now this is only a front end file we're using, and we give it h1 hello app script, and right now we can deploy it. New deployment, deploy it as a web application, and a new revision. Let's give it a description for development, so for dev. Okay, execute it as myself, and anyone should have access to it since we are going to deploy it as a web application. Okay, so after I deploy it, and I should be able to have a URL. Okay, this is the URL to your web application. So if you click on that link and you have an application like this, this is a name, the title. Remember, we defined here in the backend the title, which is a name, right? And then you have a h1 here, a hello app script, which is from the front end file, which is from here. So this is the basic structure of the web application in Google Apps Script. Okay, so let's now bring the Vue library to our application. So if you go to vue.js.org and go to get started, and here in this installation, you should go to the CDN here, and the only thing you need to do, you need to grab a URL here, right? Copy here, some versions here, but you can use this one for production. Okay, you can use this one for development. So let's copy this one first, but you can replace it later if you decide to deploy your product, your application for production. Okay, so let's copy this link, and I need to create a new file here, HTML file. Let's name it vue/index. So this is a HTML file, but it's going to be a script file. We're using it for a script file. So first of all, we paste the URL we got from this website. Okay, and we can now bring the Vue library to our project. So to create a Vue application is very simple. So we use new Vue to create a new instance. So let's give it a name here, app new Vue, and I'd like to give it an element ID here. So if we ID app, so I'm going to basically put all my Vue content in this element here. Okay, with ID app, which is right now is not defined. So I need to update this later. And let me give it an example here. Let's say we have data here called maybe h1. Hello view. So let's say we have h1 here in this data object, okay? And we create this app, which is a new, it's a view instance here. And we can use our data here, which is one name, not h1, or title. So we can use title here. And we need to pass, we need to wrap this in a div, give it ID of app. So in this case, all of this content of our view application is going to be inside of this div. Okay, so give it h1 here. And let's test if this is working. So if this title is replaced by the value we defined it here, that means this view setup is done. Okay, so let me refresh this page. And I need to get the development URL here, which is end with a dev. Okay, so right now is the title. I forgot one thing, I'm sorry. So right now we have this file, but we need to bring this all of this script into our index file, right? So we need to create a backend function here to do that. So we can call the function called link. So this name you can sometimes, most of the time, we call it include. Okay, so I put underscore here. So if I put underscore here as the last character of this function name, you will not see it here. Okay, so if you want to hide the function in your backend, you can do it like this way. All right, so let's say file name, and this function is going to return an HTML service and create a template from a file name. So we pass this file name here, right? And we use this file name and evaluate and get content. Right, so basically this function is going to include one HTML file into another. So here we can call it in this way, include, and the file name we'd like to include here, which is view/index.html. Okay, so this is a file we'd like to include it here after this div. Okay, so here I think right now we can make this working. Yeah, as you can see, it's updated like the hello view. So if I'd like to update the value here in our app here, maybe hello New Year. Okay. So I updated the code here, and if I reload the page, and I should have this hello New Year, right? So that means the setup for Vue is done. Okay, we have the basic structure for our Vue application in Google Apps Script project. Okay, let's bring vuetify into our application. So let's go to vuetify.js.com. Okay, if you don't know vuetify, basically vuetify is basically a library like Bootstrap, okay, but it's designed for Vue to use it very easily. All right, basically it's a UI library. So I'd like to introduce this library in this in this project. So it's going to help you to build the UI element very easily in your application. Okay, so visit vuetify.js.com and click on Get Started. And in this installation part, you also can find usage with CDN. Okay, and you need to make a copy of all of this. The font, as you can see here, we have the font, and we have the icon, and we have the CSS. So copy all of these three links and go back to our project, go to the index file and paste here. So this is how we bring this thing. And we also need to copy of these two script tags. But I think I don't need to copy this one because this one is a view. It's basically a link to the Vue library, but we already did it here. We already have a version here for Vue.js, so we don't need that link. But we can make a copy of these two or three, this script tag and this one. Okay, so let's make a new file, HTML file. So call it view vuetify. So this file is going to be our vuetify or the setup for our vuetify. And I need to get rid of this. Okay. And I'd like to make a const vuetify equal to. So I define our vuetify add-on is like an add-on. Okay, it's like an add-on to our Vue application, right? And then we need to add this vuetify into our Vue instance here. So basically, we'd like to use this vuetify add-on in our application, and we also need to bring this vuetify file into our JS file, our main Vue index file. So we can call this function here. Let's make a copy of this function, not a function, basically a line of code here, and go back to our Vue index file. And I'd like to bring the vuetify view /vuetify HTML. Basically, bring this code here so we can add this vuetify here in our application. All right. So this is how to add the vuetify library or vuetify add-on to our Vue application. And so I need to do some change here. If we go to our code here, so I'd like to make a copy of this. Okay, so as you can see, this tag view app, view main, every tag start with view dash, which basically is a view is a vuetify component. Okay, so they are not standard HTML tags, right? So I just pass them here, and I'd like to use the title here, and I'd like to change the value here, hello vuetify, and I can apply, I can apply maybe I'd like to add a h1 here, and also we can apply a class, or maybe I'd like to change the color. Let me try it. Text primary. So I changed the text color. I think this is class. Let me try it. So if I reload the page, it's not class, I think it's color. So let me try color. The font is changed, right? Because we're using a vuetify library here. All right, I think I cannot remember what should I use here, so let me check. I have colors. Okay, I should use a primary dash dash text and with a class. So this is a class and primary dash dash text. So in this case, we can use this class to update the color of our hello vuetify. So right now, that means this vuetify library is working. And if you want to add a button here, you can use vbtm, which is short for button, and we can use something like that. And we can even use a v icon. So put an icon here, left icon, and let's say submit, and give it a icon like MDI, a heart. So let's give it a color of red. So let's check if this is working. So we have a button like this, right? So this basically means we have bring the vuetify to our application, and then we can build all of these components here, like the buttons. So you can apply all of these buttons. You can make it you can do all of this very easily, as you can see. All the kind of button you want to add, you can use all of this. You can use all of this content, okay? All of this element very easily in your application, right? So this is how we bring the vuetify.js to our application. Okay, so let's now bring Vuex, which is basically a state management tool for our application. So if you go to Vuex, vue.js.org, and you should be able to find installation here. So what is Vuex? So basically, Vuex is basically a state management pattern here. Basically, it's allow you to have one single source of your data. Okay, so to make sure every component or every page or every router in your application, we can share the same data source, and you manage all of the data in one single place. Right? So let's install this, and let me. We can copy all of this. We need a script tag here. So basically, I need to create a new file, new HTML file. So let's name it view store HTML. Okay, so let's make a copy of this view, but I don't need this view. Okay, I need Vuex, and the link is here. Okay, I can make a copy of this link, and I can get rid of this version here. So I can always use the latest version. So this is the link. And go back to our code here. I need to replace this source with this link here. All right, so this is the link to our library, Vuex library, and we need to create a store for our data, okay? And if you click on this get started, and this is how your store created, like this way. So let's make a copy of this store. And in our code here, I need to add a script tag here, just like what we did for the vuetify. And we can make our store here. So this is our store, and we have some states. So this basically is the data, and we can make a loading false, and we also can give it a title here, and hello Vuex or Vuex store. So we have two states, or basically two properties of our data, and this is the mutation. We have some mutation to basically to update your state, and we have some actions. Okay, so let's use this data in our code to test if this Vuex is working or not. And after we create this file, we need to bring this file into our view index file, just like what we did here for the vuetify, and then make a copy of this vuetify and paste here and bring the store in our application, right? And we need to add our store here. And since we have this store and we don't need this data anymore, okay, we put all our data in this store, and we have this loading, we have this title, and how can we access this title? We can access it like this. So in our index file, we can use that computed, and we can bring this Vuex. We can map the states. We'd like to get the loading, and we'd like to map the title into our title, right? So in this way, we grab the title and loading from our store, okay? And we can use it. We can use the loading and the title in our application. So let's go to our index file here. So this is the title, and I'd like to add some buttons here. So loading, not loading. So let's say if this button, if the loading is true, I'd like to change this button to loading button, okay? And I'd like to make two new buttons here. One button is going to start loading, and another button is going to stop the loading, right? So start loading. This is button to start the loading, and this button is going to be stop loading. And we should have two functions here. Add click is going to start loading, and this function right now is not defined, but we can use something very easily. So we can define a mutation here called start loading, and this start loading is going to take a state, and it's going to change the state or loading equal to true, right? So if the state loading of the states is true, that means we are start loading, and in the same way we can stop loading and change it to false. Okay, we have two mutations here, and in our code we can call these mutations. So we use a $store.commit, and you need to call the functions, basically start loading, call the mutations, and for this one, let me make a copy of this. So basically $store commit. Okay, there is three M's here. Stop loading. Let me check if this is working. So by default, if you check your store, by default this loading is false, right? So this button is not loading, is not loading. So basically, so if I click this on start loading, something is wrong, it seems like. Let me check. Stop loading, nothing happened. That's weird. I need to make sure if this is working. Add click. Okay, I put this function to this icon. So if I click on this icon, cannot click. I should add this function to this button. Okay, not to this icon, and not loading. Let's reload this page. So if I click on this, start loading, stop loading. Let me check mutation states, loading. That's not working. That's weird. Store commit. We have this store. That's pretty weird. Add click store commit. But I didn't see an error here. Okay, I think I see the issue here because I put a loading to this icon. I should put this loading to this button. Okay, I added these properties here for the wrong element. So if I click on this loading, so as you can see, this button is loading, and if I click stop, and this button is not loading anymore, right? So that basically means the Vuex add-on or library is added to our application successfully. Right. Okay, so let's bring vue-router to our application so we can have multiple pages in our application. And if you do a Google search for vue-router, and it's basically router.vuejs.org, and click on installation, and you can have a library here. So basically you can make a copy of this. You need a script tag to the library, okay? And for me, I'd like to make a copy of this file. This content here, I think this link is the source file. So make a copy of this file and go back to our code and create a new file, which is also HTML file, view router. So this is our router, and I'd like to add a script tag here, the source, which is copied from, we just copied from here, okay, which is this link, and I can get rid of this version. You also can keep it here, keep it there. So this is our source, which is to this vue-router library, and we need to create our own router. So let's add a router here, which is also a script tag, and then we need to create our router here. So to create a router, if you go to get started, and you need to have some route, and you need to create a router with this route. And last, you need to add your router to this application. So let's first make a copy of this. And in our code, we have our route here. So let me get rid of this comment. So this is our route. And let's say we want to create two pages. So the first page is going to be our home page, and this component is going to be our home view, okay, which is not defined yet. And another one is about page, and this component is going to be our about view. Okay, so two components which is not defined, and we can add other stuff here like a meta data. We can add, like we can add icon if you like. So let's add a MDI home. Also for this about view, I'd like to add a metadata here for the icon. You can say MDI information. And you also can add more metadata here, like the title. If you want, you can add a home here, or the title, which is about me or about. So you can add more stuff here. So let's create this component. So const home view, which is a component. So view dot component, which creates a component. Okay. So first we need to have a template here. So this is our home view, right? I'd like to add basically we can add a home here for now. So just to show you the result. So give it a h1 tag. So this is our home view, and we can add another view which is about view, right? And we change this to about, and this home view go to here, and this about view go to here. So we have two routes here, and we can use this router in our application. And this router, we also need to add this router to our application, so which is in this view index file. And like we did for the store and vuetify, we need to add this router in our application. And also we need to bring this router into our file, so which is vue-router. So we have vuetify, we have store, we have router in our application. And to use this vue-router, we need to change our code structure here a little bit. So let me get rid of this. And if you go to vuetify, get started, where is my get started installation cdn? Not this one, I think application. Okay, so here you have a basic structure of your application. Okay, so you have an application which is a view app component, and you have your navigation drawer, and you have your app bar, and you have your main. And here, if you use a vue-router, you can add a router view here, component here. So let me make a copy of this element and add it back to our code. So basically, I'm going to replace all of this content with this template. So this is our router. The content for the router is going to be placed here. Okay. So let's get rid of this. This is app bar in our drawer. Get rid of this footer. If you want to add a footer, you can add it here. And so if I reload this page now, you will not see these buttons, but you will see empty template here. All right. So I'd like to add 2 buttons here so we can navigate the pages we defined in our router, right? And here we have our drawer. So I'd like to make a copy of this too. And I'd like to, you know what, I'd like to create a new file, view components. So I'd like to put all my components in this file. Let me create a script tag here. So the first component I'd like to create is a navbar. Okay, so I call it my navbar, and there's it's going to be view component, and we can give it a name, my navbar. And here we can create our navbar. So template, and we add our content here. So we copy the navbar, which is basically this part, right? So this is our navbar. And here I'd like to make a data or compute it. I'd like to bring the routers into our application. So let's say pages, which is, let's return this router dot options routes. So this is going to return the values we defined in our router. We define here. So let me do a log here so you can see it. Console.log this router, not here. So this is the pages, and I'd like to add a navbar to our application. So if you go to the vuetify web page here, you can find some component here you can use. So like the bars, you can find the app bar. So you have a lot of example here you can use, right? You have something like this. That's very cool. And I think I need to get the basic. So this is our app bar. I'd like to get an icon here and a title. And then we get the spacer as well. So I put it here in this app bar, and we add so this is the navbar icon, and for this title I'd like to use route or name or route meta dot title. So you remember we defined something here. Is this route? We have a meta tag here, and we can access this title we defined here. So in this case, let me just reload the page. Not now. Okay, we define this component, and we need to use this component in our code. So remember, we in our index file we already get rid of this navigation here for the app bar, and so we need to add our navbar here, so which is my navbar, and close it. So this is the component we defined here, right? And we're going to bring this into our application, and we add a title here. So let me check if it's working. Okay, my navbar is registered. Right, I need to bring this file into this component. Right now it's not in our file, so we need to bring before the router. So let's bring the view components. So this is the file we need to bring this in. So let's save it and let me reload the page. View app. I think I did something wrong there. Cannot component. So here, the components template should contain exactly one root element. If you check our component here, we have one component here, two components. So we need to wrap it in a div. Only one single element can be contained in this template. So save it and reload. So as you can see right now we are in this home page, but we don't have any buttons here. So let's add some buttons here so you can make it working. And to do that, let's also go to vuetify and find a navigation bar. We call navigation drawers. And I'd like to use this drawer. So let's make a copy of this. So this is for our application. And we add it here in this app drawer, right? So here you have your application name. I think we can use, in our store, we have a title, but we can have a name here for our application, maybe LC011, so this is the name. And we can give it a title, let's say automate everything. So this is the title, and we can use this name and the title in our component here. So to use these properties here, we can use the vuex.map state. Then we basically get a name from the store, right? And we also need to grab the title from the store. And maybe we can add the total, not the total, the loading from the store as well, okay? So maybe we can use this loading later. So we have this name, we have this title, so we can replace this application with name and this subtext with title. So let's check what it looks like. So we have this title and we have this automate everything as a subtitle. This is the app name. Okay, so this is now it's not working. Let's make this this button working here. So to do that, I think, so if you go to vuetify, it's not here. I need to add a list of basically navigations, okay? So we can make a copy of this list and add it here after this view list item. And here is our navigations. And v4 item in items. So let's say right now we don't have items, but we have pages. So let's say v4 item in pages. And the key we're going to be item.pass. And this is going to be a link. And the item icon is going to be the icon we define for our pass. And the title is going to be meta.title. All right, so this is for our, where is my list? Navigation list. So right now, if I reload the page, as you can see, I have this, a home and about, but this icon is not there. something wrong there because I need to use item meta.icon, I think. And yes, if I reload the page, so we have the home and about. So if I click on about, it's not working, right? Because I need to apply another property which is to, and which is item.pass. And in this case, I think I should make this working. So if I reload the page, so right now we are on the home page, and if I click on about, as you can see, we are about page. Home page, about page is now working. So this is almost about the navigation here. As you can see, it's working fine. And this button is not working. So let's add this button, make this button working. So I think, where is my drawer? We draw. So the model show, or you can make a drawer. So let's add a proper added data. Here is a function, and it's going to return an object, and we have a drawer. By default, let's say the drawer is false. And if I click on this button, right, is this nav item, if I click on this button, I'd like to change the drawer value equal to, basically I'm going to toggle, if it's true, I change it to false, if it's false, change it to true, right? So let me check if this is working. What's the error message? Let me check. Failed to resolve directive mode. Okay, mode, what is mode? Let me just search for mode. Okay, model, not mode. So by default, this is for the drawer value is false. So it's the navigation drawer is hide, right? If you load the page, it's hide. And if you click on this button, it's going to bring you to this app drawer. So this is an easy fix to enable these values. So that's how we use this use vue and vuetify and all of this content together, so you can see how easy it is. And it seems like the content is not here. That's weird. Let me check in our router. I should have h1 tag for home, but I don't know why it's not showing. Okay, so I defined this wrong. So this should be a template, should be only object, so temp not a component. And we can have h1, so this is for our home. And let me replace this. Don't need make it as a component. We only need to use object like this as a template. And let me refresh this page. And right now we have this home here, right? About home, about. So you can add more content about your application. But remember, you can only have, for template, you can only have one root element. So if you have more content, you need to wrap it in a div or something like that. So this is our home, and you can add more content here for your home, right? This is about so about So seems like it's working fine. And maybe one last thing I'd like to add here in this video, I'd like to show you. With Vuetify, you can simply apply a theme to your application very easily. So here in these features, I have a theme, and you can customize your theme color very easily. So let me copy all of this color. As you can see, they're hex color. We have primary, secondary. So see all of these colors here, and we can apply theme here, right? So go back to our file and go to Vuetify. That's why I add a file here separately. So you can apply a theme. Let's say if you want a dark theme, you can make it true. And where is my Vuetify? So let me make a copy of this. So Vuetify theme, you have a light theme, and you also can have a dark theme. Okay, so themes, you can have a light, and then you can have a dark. So here I'd like to define the light theme here, so which is copied from where is my light color? So this is the colors we need to define for this theme. I think this is default colors, which is in right now is in this Vuetify default light theme. So also I'd like to make a copy of this and make it dark. And right now I enable this dark mode. Okay. So let me check if I can. Right now I'm in this dark mode, but I can very easily add a button here to toggle. It basically changes it back to light mode very easily. So let me show you. So basically this color, you can define your color for your application. You can configure your color schema very easily. So you basically change all of this color for the primary or secondary. So things like that. Let me add a button here. So in our navigation, which is in this component, and in our drawer, remember we have a drawer here, and I'd like to add make a copy of this element and add it here, since this is the last one, and I don't need to have all of this. We need to have an icon. So to find the icon, let me show you. Features, icon fonts. So you can find any icon, maybe light or moon, I don't know. Lighter, you can have a light button here like this, light on or light off, or dark. So you can search any icons here. So maybe I'd like to add a button for darkness. Not sure if we can find it. So basically you choose the icon, light on. So let's copy this light on button here and put it here. So if Vuetify dark, if dark is true, I put a light on here or off. So this is for the button. And if Vuetify dark, I'll change the title to, so if the dark mode is on, so let's say we change it to light mode, right? And if it's off, let's change it to dark mode. or light mode. So this is our I think it's our button, and we need to add a function here to enable if we click on this button or this link, we need to update this vuetify dark to basically, if it's true, change to false. If it's false, change it to true. Just like what we did for this draw button there. So let me try it. So right now it's in dark mode. It's not working. That's weird. Let me check the code here. I'm not sure if I remember this correctly. So features, theme, dark, or let me do a search for vuetify. Okay, so I need to use vuetify theme dark. Vuetify theme dark. So which is basically this value you defined. So vuetify theme dark, right? Vuetify theme dark. And in our component here, I also need to make theme dark and theme dark. So if it's dark, so let me try it again. Right now it's dark mode and change it to light mode. So right now I can change it to dark mode, change it back to light mode, dark, light. So this is very cool. So right now you have the basic structure of this application. And in today's video, it's only focused on the front end, okay? And maybe in the next part, I'd like to bring some functionalities to your application, right? And I think that's it for today's video and for this part A.